Portland Trailblazers, everybody memeing Kyrie's face. Got to know the camera's always on you. That's the rumor.
Ooh.
How about the breakdown on the layman's terms, if you will, the finish from Jaylen Brown?
Nice in and out finish and transition. That was pretty.
Locked at 28. CJ the miss. No worry. Dame, I'll take it.
Dollar.
Baseline J. Lead is 5. And all the talk, coach, about Kyrie and comments, he could still do this. We can comment on all the creativity.
He'll put numbers up on the board every night for you.
That's it. Lead was 1 at the break for Portland, 43-42. And then Dame. Let's create space. First, too much space. Off the screen from 3. It's good. He had 16 in the quarter. Got it going. Gave him a 10-point lead.
Yeah, Dame can get going. One of the best at getting hot in the NBA.
He definitely did that. Not done. Past Al Horford, making it look easy off glass, 74-64.
About 47 shots between the starting guards for Portland.
I'll tell you what, though, we know one thing. You don't need any leadership to tell Marcus Smart how to play. Only one way. Bucket cuts it to 4, but Nurkic, he doesn't just talk. He dunks. 16 and 6. Lead was 6. More from Kyrie, Gio.
Yeah, Kyrie Irving, when he gets going, finger roll to the rim. What's that?
The Brotherhood?
The Brotherhood.
Brotherhood.
You know it.
Dame Lillard, 33, 7 boards, 4 assists. The lead is 7, the win by 5. The Celtics have lost 4 in a row for the first time this season. It is, as they said in Ghostbusters, right now officially in Boston, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. Patriots, Super Bowl, Red Sox, 108 wins, a record, World Series, Celtics, and Brad Stevens, not the same story.
Brad, at the end there, were you trying to trap Damian Lillard or were you trying to foul?
Trying to trap him initially, then they got away and came awfully close to the half-court line, but I think he stayed on the right side of it. And then, obviously, if you can get away with not fouling Damian Lillard, that'd be good. So trying to trap and get the ball out of his hands. Good job by Marcus Smart. Intentionally missed that free throw, and great job by Kyrie to knock in that shot and gave us a little bit of life there at the end.
Coach, after the Shaquille O'Neal league doesn't have big men, but Yusuf Nurkic is one of the big men we have right now. So what will be your strategy, especially at the playoffs, teams who has big men, especially Milwaukee, Philadelphia, and Toronto?
Well, I think if you look at us in the past against those guys, we've usually played one big at a time for the most part. There's been some times against Philadelphia that we've played double bigs. And Baines is a big part of that, obviously, and will be when he comes back. So Allen Baines will play the majority of those minutes against big posts like that. But, we tried to steal a few minutes here or there with Tice on Canner or, even Robert Williams for a possession. Marcus Morris played some small ball 5, so that Al wouldn't have to play 40 tonight. But because that's hard to do against that size. Those guys are both really good. Adding Canner, I think, really solidifies their ability to score when things get going tough. And in the playoffs, when things get tough and you need to be able to throw it on the block to somebody with that second unit or just one of those 2 guards in the game, that's a good addition, and he did a good job tonight.
You guys have talked last couple of days about being engaged, locked in, playing together. What did you think of that?
Yeah, today was good, Adam. I mean, it sucks we didn't shoot the ball well, but that's part of it. I thought that I actually just told the guys, you walk out of here a little bit more encouraged because the reason we lost, if anything, was we didn't make shots, and I think it was because we were pressing. I thought we were disappointed in ourselves, and we looked like a team that really wanted tonight to go well, and it didn't. And you're going to have games like that, and so I'm a lot more encouraged tonight than I was last night. Tonight, to come back and guard this team on the second night of it back-to-back and hold them under 100 is, we give ourselves a chance to win. We just didn't score enough.
The possession in the fourth quarter with the zone defense, what are you trying to accomplish there going zone, and then what broke down that allowed them to get
I need to go back and watch it. We've done that a couple of times. We did it at the end of the first half as well, and it got us another possession right before halftime. You're just trying to break the rhythm, and give them a different look. And, obviously it didn't go well on that possession, but it was good in the Bulls game. at the end. It was good at the end of the first quarter. And, but yeah, that possession, I'll go back and watch it, and we'll figure out how to try to not to let that happen again.
And then you went to an 8-man rotation without Rozier. I think that's the first time probably you've done that all year. What went into that decision making? Was it just wanted this one, needed this one? I guess what was that?
You know, I'm asking probably the same questions you're asking after the game, as maybe those other guys could have given us a little bit of energy or lift, but I thought we were playing hard. You know, I didn't want to. I wanted to continue with. Basically, whenever we had to sit two wings, we could bring two wings in, and so ultimately, you know, hindsight might be 20/20. Maybe you play Wanamaker or Ojale, but I didn't have any plans to stick with an 8-man, I didn't have any plans to go much higher than an 8-man tonight.
Brad, you talk about the missed shots. They were good looks, but were you happy with the way the offense ran to generate those good looks?
At times. Good question. At times. And they are, if you're not making threes and outside shots, they're going to be really hard to score on. Because even though they're small and you can get some post advantage, as you did occasionally with Jalen, although that was on Layman, that's a little bit different. He's a big guy. They really come to help. They're very active. They're very long. They're very smart. And then Nurkic is great protecting in and around the basket. He's a big body, block shots. He knows how to play in there. And so you gotta make some jump shots to beat these guys. You know, obviously we didn't quite make enough.
Brad, 20 games left. Do you just try to prepare this team for the postseason regardless of your seed? Do you even worry about the standings at this point? Is it just, do you kind of
I think we're desperate for a win, and to feel good about ourselves. You know, I said, you know, you feel a lot better leaving the night, but it doesn't feel much better because you didn't win. And you know, I think we need to stay in the moment, stay in the day, and that time will come when that time comes, and wherever we are, we'll play.
We'll have much more on the Celtics and their situation, but we are all members of Wade County. Turns back the clock for a buzzer beater to remember.
Make no mistake about it.
James Harden failed to score 30 points for the first time since December on Monday night in a win over the Atlanta Hawks. What are we going to do with ourselves?
You said December last year, huh?
December 2018.
That was a remarkable streak, Sekou.
It was.
I mean, no matter what, that's a remarkable.
You said he
streak.
failed, though. I mean, he did get
28.
like 28.
Yeah, 28.
It wasn't like he was far off.
No.
So the game before the streak started, he had 29.
Yeah, 29, that's right. So bookended 29 and 28. Warriors back at work tonight. They continue their Eastern Conference road trip. Second stop tonight in Miami, where DeMarcus Cousins will not be available for Steph Curry and friends against a struggling Heat team that has lost 6 in a row at home. Meanwhile, in Boston, what is going on with the Celtics?
Drama, losses, too many players. Time for Brad and Danny Ainge. I want to hear from them, Matt.
Okay, we're going to hear from at least Brad Stevens. I don't know about Danny Ainge. Coming up in this edition of Game Time. You kind of answered all the questions, but we'll go into more detail on the Celtics here on Game Time Live. Good to have you with us. That's Sekou Smith right over there. Steve Smith right over there. My name is not Smith. It's Matt. Good to have you along with us. On this hump day, we will start with the Celtics, who cannot seem to get over the hump lately. They are back home tonight against Portland, trying to bounce back from last night's blowout in Toronto. The C's gave up an 18-0 second quarter run that took them out of the game for good. They shot just 38%, what turned out to be their most lopsided loss of the season, 118-95, as the two teams wound up splitting their season series. So after winning 10 of 11, Boston's now lost 5 of 7, giving up 116 a game over that stretch on 48% shooting. Back on the horse tonight against the Trailblazers. As promised, here's head coach Brad Stevens.
Hello.
Just starting off the latest with Terry and the knee soreness.
So Brad is playing, Terry is not. Terry aggravated a tendon in his knee that had been giving him some discomfort in the fourth quarter. I believe it was on that dunk. Was able to play through it, sore after the game. a little bit more sore today than expected. And then I was told right before we walked through that he's unavailable.
Any update in terms of Aaron's progress going forward?
Yeah, Aaron had a great day today. He worked out, and we're going to see how he feels tomorrow. And then I would say that Friday is unlikely. But beyond that, I think he could play anytime in the days after that, depending on how he comes out of today's workout.
Coach, after last night is a tough game back-to-back. These guys are really good.
They're really good. They're, I think that, first of all, they just have a great way about them. They play with such force offensively. Now with the ability to post different guys, and then the way that they run off screens, the way that they hit you on screens, and then ultimately the way they shoot the ball with those guys. It's a really impressive team. Obviously the 5th-ranked offense in the league, and a team that's been together and really understands how they want to play on both ends. So heck of a challenge. They're one of the hotter teams in the league, and we're running into that quite often right now. And that's part of it. So, we know we have to play really well to have a chance.
What stands out about their interior presence as well?
48 minutes of guys that can post now. I think when they came off the bench before, they certainly have good players in Collins and Leonard, but they ended up stretching you more than Nurkic and Kanter, where those guys just, get the ball in the seams or get the ball in transition or get the ball in the block and go to work. That creates another level of issues because there's not too many places to help off of when you're playing against this team right now.
Is it really a test of your tenacity right now, your team as a group?
I just think we just need to, and I said this yesterday, we need to be a lot more solid than we were yesterday. We need to be we're going to have to play with a lot more force, and that's only to have a chance to win. I think this is a really good team we're playing against.
How do you rank communication, Brad, in terms of the things you might be concerned about on defense?
Yeah, I think it's you always worry about every little thing, but you can communicate all you want, but if you're not back, it's hard to stop somebody. And there just has to be a reliability in doing our jobs well on every possession. We've shown ourselves more than capable of it. We've shown ourselves to be able to do it. We just have to be able to do it more consistently.
When you say force, does that translate to is it as simple as that?
Time for the upcoming schedule presented by Metro by T-Mobile. 3 straight games at home for the Celtics, starting with the Blazers tonight, then a 4-game California trip beginning with the Warriors next Tuesday. Gary Washburn has been along for the roller coaster ride as the C's beat writer for the Boston Globe, and he's with us now here on Game Time. Gary, you wrote today that, quote, something is seriously wrong with this Celtics team. What in particular stands out to you most about what you've seen during this downturn?
I just think it's the lapses. The 18-0 run last night against Toronto, it's just fallen asleep at the most inopportune times. The terrible quarters. They'll play 3 good quarters and a terrible quarter and then lose the game by 5 or 6. It's usually been the third quarter. The last couple nights it's been the second quarter. The Bulls outscored them 36-18. In the second quarter a couple nights ago. Then last night in Toronto outscored them 36-13. That's unacceptable if you're a championship caliber team to just have those 12-minute lapses, times where you just don't score and then the other team just plays, globetrotters against you.
Well, it's fascinating trying to read the tea leaves here from the outside, and you hear the players saying things like, quote, we're just not together, and quote, we're not fighting. How clear is it at this point that whatever the issue is, it's not X's and O's?
Yeah, it's definitely mental. Execution's part of it, but I think that's just lends into guys trying to do a little too much. You have a lot of talented players in this team, but a lot of guys from night to night don't know their particular role, and so they try to play hero ball. And I don't think there's a bunch of guys in here who are selfish or just trying to get their points and don't care about winning. I think there's guys who truly believe that they can do what it takes to win, and so, okay, I'll take this guy one-on-one. Okay, I can hit this three-pointer. But it ends up being a bad possession. It ends up being something that's not productive explosive, and then all of a sudden there's a run out, a fast break, and Toronto's dunking, uncontested dunk, or guys are just lapsing, or guys are putting their heads down after missing shots. I mean, this team has to be stronger, more mental fortitude, just get back on defense, the basic things that great teams do. And this team hasn't been playing that way for a while.
Gary, Steve Smith, I know you're in the inside, but just looking on the outside, they are so talented. They have so many players. Reminds me a little bit of our Portland Trailblazers team when you had 11, 12 deep. But there comes a time where you have to cut the roster down, and that's where I look for Danny Ainge and Brad Stevens. Somebody can't play these minutes. Somebody can't be that guy. And that's my opinion of the Boston Celtics. They're going to have to make a hard call and have to sit somebody. What are your thoughts on that, Gary?
Steve, I agree with you. I mean, they're just going to have to play potentially an 8-man rotation, maybe 9. They can't run 10, 11 guys out there. They're going to have to shorten things up. They're going to have to give guys more minutes and more defined roles. They're going to have to highlight guys like Jaylen Brown. It might be to the point of taking a guy like Terry Rozier out of the rotation, or putting a Brad Wanamaker in, or taking a guy like Daniel Tice out. Like, they're going to have to figure something out. I think they need to use rookie Robert Williams more. He's a rim protector, a guy who can, catch those alley-oops. He's kind of like a baby, low-budget Tyson Chandler at this point in his career. Maybe they can throw him in for minutes as they did last night against Toronto. They're going to have to do something, but you're right, Steve. To sit there and run 11 guys out there and go, okay, do what you do, and guys not know their roles, not know how many minutes they're going to play, not know they're going to play in the fourth quarter, or when they're going to get taken out of the game, that's really rough.
Gary, should we read anything into Danny Ainge being in that locker room talking to Kyrie in front of his locker after that game? Is there something more going on? Is this about some long-term, preventive care you're doing with Kyrie, or is this just about right now getting this team back on track?
Sekou, I don't think it's too much to look into it besides Kyrie maybe venting a little bit, or maybe Danny saying, what do you see out there? What's going on? And, just kind of fostering that relationship. They still think they have a chance to bring Kyrie back. As remote as that is becoming day to day, they still think they have a chance to sign him to a long-term deal. So you want to make him comfortable. And if you're Danny Ainge, you want to talk to Kyrie and see what he thinks. This guy's a champion, an Olympic champion, multi-time All-Star. So he knows what's going out there on the court. Now, whether he can fix it or not, that's another question. But I do think that it's significant that they're talking, that Kyrie isn't icing people out, or he isn't, he's being short with us. I think they're getting a little bit impatient with the media. That's always the case. But I do think it's a good sign for Celtics faithful that him and Danny are communicating.
Well, he certainly was short with you guys last night, watching his post-game comments with the media assembled around him. But that is part of the equation here, the specter of the offseason that looms in just a few months from now. And this week, of course, there was the Athletic report from Shams Charania that Ainge made clear to the Pelicans that any Celtic, quote, can be available this summer. How has that news been received?
I mean, these guys have social media. They read articles. They know that this team is potentially going to make an offer for Anthony Davis in July, and a lot of guys like a Tatum and a Brown and even a Rozier and Marcus Smart know that their names could be in that trade. So guys understand, and that doesn't help matters at all, because there's already a level of uncertainty with this team, because with Marcus Morris being a free agent, with Kyrie's situation, Al Horford can opt out. Terry Rozier is a restricted free agent. This team can be significantly different next year. So there's always already been a pressure on this team to perform this year. But now, with the AD thing hovering over him, I think guys are maybe just figuring out, well, what do I do when I know I'm not going to be here next year? Or do I start looking for homes in New Orleans? Or what do I do? Because, obviously my name's going to be bantied about if you're a guy like a Jason Tatum or a Jaylen Brown, because if I'm, Danny Ferry, the GM, Tatum's the first guy I'm asking for, and then I'm asking for Brown after that. So that has to mess with the heads of some of these young guys who have not been exposed yet to the big business of the NBA.
Well, the good news is the housing market in New Orleans is much more agreeable than Boston, so they've got that going for them.
Agreed.
If that's the way it plays out, right? Gary Washburn, the Boston Globe, on the soap opera with the Celtics. Thanks much.
Thank you.
All right, guys, when you hear the comments from the guys about fighting and all the other sort of coded messaging from the Celtics inside the locker room, a lot of it has to do with the defensive end. And Brad Stevens even said we're taking shortcuts defensively. What's he talking about?
Well, and he's right, but I think also how do you correct it? I'm going to play the guys that are not taking shortcuts. You have so much talent, Sekou, and it comes down, just from my opinion, you can't play 10 or 11 guys. You can be talented. You got to cut this roster to 8, 9, and that's why I look at Brad hasn't made that decision right now. There's so many guys that play for the Celtics, and they're so talented, but they never get a rhythm on either end. The reason why they were so good last year, their identity was defense. They came out, Terry Rozier knew he's going to play 30 to 35 minutes. Marcus Smart knew he's going to play 30 to 35 minutes. Now it's in and out, in and out. And it looks like, depending on how you're playing offensively, that you're going to stay in the game. Their rotation has to get cut to 8 or 9. The odd man out for me right now, not because I don't think he's a great player. He's just not ready. Gordon Hayward, physically, he doesn't look like he's there.
Yeah.
He could be next year, but Gordon Hayward might be the guy, in my opinion. They have to sit and let somebody else go out there and
And that is fascinating, right? Given the contract and everything. And he's actually played really well in February. Shooting percentages are way up, but you're right, he doesn't look like the All-Star, the Western Conference All-Star they signed.
And rightfully so because of the injury.
Sure, it makes perfect sense. But defensively, I think we have tape here to support some of the defensive issues that you've seen.
You know, Matt, and we're going to show this. It's not because they're not capable. It's when you're not on the same page. Say, watch this. I mean, there's 4 Celtics back, and you see Siakam getting out and running, Jason Tatum trying to help. You go help that guy. Right now, this team right now is like, it's not my fault. There's a drive. This is in a half-court situation. You saw the Boston Celtics last year, the year before that, rotating. There's 4 or 5 guys back, and you throw a pass. There's no effort. Yes, Kawhi is bigger than Marcus Smart, but where's the next guy to make him pass the basketball? And if I would say they didn't have the personnel to do it, then you start to worry. They are a fabulous defensive team.
Yeah.
Why are there not now? There's not injuries. This team right now is just not on the same page. They're all looking at each other. Something's going wrong. Also, watch their bench. There's no guys excited for each other when they're playing.
There are a ton of long, rangy defenders on that team. There's no reason they should be making plays like that.
Less is more sometimes in this league. And last year, when Brad Stevens had less to work with from a rotation standpoint, they got more out of everybody. Now that you have this abundance of bodies and all these options and you can't figure out which buttons to push, it's put a different kind of pressure on Brad Stevens, and we haven't talked about that. Don't forget about all the genius talk, and now he was arguably the best coach in basketball last year, but it was in a situation where these young players were forced into roles that maybe, Smitty, they weren't ready for, but they thrived in that spotlight. Now you're asking them to play completely different roles, and they're not excelling the way they did. But it's more about the vets even than it is the young guys, because when they play without Kyrie, you look and see how much different they play, how much more effective they are individually, and therefore as a group. I think the other thing that's really hurt them throughout this whole stretch was Aaron Baines being out. You're talking about a physical guy who brought a certain kind of energy and a balance that, he and Al Horford, kind of as your 2 big men and defensive anchors, that was missing for a long time for this team. So you didn't have that to lean on, that defensive backbone. And we cannot overstate how important the talk that consumed the Los Angeles Lakers team about the trade deadline, even though nobody thought Boston was going to be making any moves at the deadline, that talk invaded their locker room as well. So their young guys are now digesting this daily dose of who's going to be here, who's not. You start playing with a different focus. You start understanding that, hey, this might not be my long-term home. Let me go out here and showcase myself, get mine. And that's when you start looking around that locker room and hearing what guys are saying. You start reading between the line and parsing every word, and it makes you wonder, are the issues they're having technical or emotional? And I think it's a twisted combination of both that has led to them being the fragile team that they are right now.
Sekou makes a good point. Less is more. Baines was a guy that you can play him 40 minutes, but he doesn't need a play ran for him at all. And then I think also, like you said, there's another person in that locker room, the trade talk. And then now the media is in the locker room. There's more media in the locker room not talking about how well you're playing. Do you feel you're leaving? Where's Kyrie going? I think now the distractions, and that's where it's going. That's the business of basketball. You still have to be a pro and still come out there and do your job.
It's Brad Stevens' 5th year on the job. He's improved in wins every other season. This is setting up to be the first disappointing season since he arrived in Boston. Still plenty of time to go to move up into that top 4 in the East. In Charlotte, Rockets in town. That's James Harden doing his thing. Up top, Clint Capella with the bucket, 13-11 Hornets.